Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about an series of experience I've had with the Attack on Titan meta so far. Haven't had to play a lot because my locals are both very small, but I have had a few chances to play against these transforming Titan characters, these newer characters that we've seen. I played against an Annie deck in one of my pre-releases, who is able to build very quickly with spending her momentum and with giving one attack powerful every turn, guaranteeing your momentum. I've played a Bertolt. One of my locals, Olin, is working on a very strong Bertolt deck, which is terrifying. He's basically built it to be very new player friendly, so he doesn't just blow people out of the water, and it's still scary. So when he starts working on that seriously, it's going to be an absolute menace. I haven't played against an Eren Yeager. I have played against a Reiner Braun, who I find most, obviously, concerning on the flip side. But mainly with that reducing my damage to 1. That really is difficult. I'm planning on building Ymir myself, and I have not played against the Challenger Series Eren. But something these characters all have in common is that they can transform, obviously, but they can feel very overwhelming to play. Maybe not Annie, and maybe not Eren, obviously, because no one's playing Eren right now, or this Eren, even though this Eren can be scary if you can't ruin his day very quickly. But Ymir, once you switch to this Jaw Titan form, you're going to have a rough time. Reiner on transformation can just make your day horrible. Bertolt is terrifying if he gets a bunch of momentum stacked, and then stun 1 and 3 damage on all of his attacks is ridiculous. So, what do all of these transforming Titan characters have in common? Give up? It's that they all need a specific number of foundations to transform. You have Annie at 9, Bertolt at 9, Eren at 9, if any player has 9, Reiner at 9, Ymir at 9, Eren Yeager from the Challenger Series is the only odd man out with you have to have 8 face-down foundations or more, rather than either player having 9 or more foundations. So, the thing is, yes, you can run deadlock abilities, but then again, your rival only needs to get to 9 in order to transform. So deadlock isn't exactly a sure thing. What you can do, however, I've decided, is you can bully these characters by not letting them transform in the first place. And that leads me to today's deck profile for Karasu. Karasu is one of the Team Toguro members from Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament. He is a 7 hand size 20 health character with Death, Evil, and Fire for his symbols. We went with a Fire deck with attuned Death cards, and I think we're really going to show off what this character can do. He has a static that says after you deal damage with any attack, any player that has 6 or more foundations is forced to destroy 1 foundation, or in terms of Attack on Titan, they sacrifice 1 foundation. And then Enhance, this attack gets plus X damage. X equals the total number of foundations destroyed during this turn. So, if any of your attacks hit, both you and your rival have to sacrifice a foundation if you have more than 6. So you are taking their game plan of getting to 9, and your game plan is hold them at 6. And we have plenty of ways to do that. So we're going to start with our attack lineup, Ravages of War. This is one of the main reasons I wanted to build this deck. Sure, it's an 8 cost, which when you're hovering around 6 foundations is tough. But it's an 8 high for 8 with a +2 high block, which is very nice, and it checks a 4. Checks a 4 when you're already running lower on the foundation side. Higher checks really matter. But for the Blitz, your rival discards a card, sacrifices a foundation, and spends a momentum. So if this is the first card you play during your turn, they automatically have to sacrifice a foundation, and you can give it +1 damage with Karasu. And then if they discard a card and are not able to fully block Ravages of War, or being 8 speed, if they just can't block it, they might have to sacrifice another foundation. This is your opening salvo that you really want to see. Plus, as a response, after you block with this card, if you have 6 or fewer foundations, your rival has to discard a card, and you get to draw a card. So, hampering them defensively and pressuring them offensively. Ravages of War is an amazing card for Karasu, and I think it's really going to be one of the cards that pushes him maybe not into the meta, but maybe as kind of like a tech anti-meta, as one of these characters that can maybe keep these people in check. Granted, 20 health on a 7-hander, when we're seeing a bunch of these 7-handers with like 22, 23 health, is scary. But that's why with our combination of fire and death, we get a lot of tools offensively and defensively that will allow us to pivot from one to another. Like Ruthless Savagery. It's a 6/6. It's a 6 cost, which is pretty pricey on a 3 diff. It's got a very nice 1 high block though, but as a response, we may sacrifice 1 backup or foundation. After we play this card, gain 3 health. This is both on offense and if we play it as a block. So we can sacrifice a committed foundation on defense when we block with this to gain 3 health. That's pretty solid. Or sacrifice a foundation that we may have had to commit when passing the check to play this card, gain 3 health, and then we get to add an extra damage to our turn counter. Besiege is a really powerful offensive card. It's a 3 mid 4 on a 3 diff, which as a blitz can say that this card can only be blocked by a block modifier of 3 or greater. So if your rival's trying to throw, their blocks at Ruthless Savagery or Ravages of War or Luna Ring, as we'll get to, if you're keeping them on a low foundation count, they might not be able to block this, period. Which means this is going to wear Karasu's damage boost, plus some of the other damage boosts we have, very well. We have Luna Ring. It's a 5 difficulty, 3 control, 4 high for 5, with a +1 mid block. That's very nice. It's a little bit of asset hate. We get to destroy 1 rival asset. And this says foundation, so that's fine. But this attack gets 1 damage for each card that has been destroyed this turn. So not only can you get +1 damage for blowing up an asset, such as a vertical maneuvering equipment, which is everywhere right now, or a Cape of No Return, but you also double up on Karasu's damage for number of foundations destroyed during the turn. So this could also be a very powerful finisher, just like Besiege could, when your rival doesn't have the just resources to deal with it. We have Cluster Bombs. This is a 5 difficulty, 3 mid 5. Pretty standard. But as an enhance, we get to selectively destroy a rival foundation unless they lose 3 health to cancel this effect. So we can force our rival to just automatically burn for 3. And if they can't afford to burn for 3, they just lose their best defensive piece. It's a pretty good win-win for us. Plus, every foundation destroyed or sacrificed during our turn is another +1 damage we get for Karasu. And then if they did get to deadlock, because sometimes you just can't stop them, we get to selectively destroy 2 rival foundations. On to Karasu's own cards, we have Deleterious Bomb, a 4 high for 5. It says, enhance, we get to destroy 1 of our own foundations, so sacrifice 1. This attack gets +1 speed and stun 1, so it becomes a 5 high 5 with stun 1, which, if you're keeping your rival to 6 foundations, thereabouts, pretty good. And as a response in our card pool, after our rival sacrifices a foundation, or destroys a foundation, we get to remove this card from our card pool, so it clears itself, which is really strong. So if we can force our rival to destroy a foundation, either by this hitting, 5 high 5 stun 1, they can't block it completely, we just get to automatically clear Deleterious Bomb. Really strong. We have Malefic Grenade, which has got a very nice 0 low block here. It's a 4 mid 5, we can spend 1 momentum, this attack gets 3 speed, so it becomes a 7 mid 5, and if it deals damage, our rival destroys a foundation. So we can blow 1 up with Malefic Grenade and Karasu in 1 hit, if our rival has 6 or more foundations. That is really, really good. And then we have Trace Eyes, his ultra rare attack. It's a 4 low 3, which doesn't seem very good, except for it's got Echo, which means after it resolves, we can spend a momentum to play it again from our card pool. Or, as an enhance on this card, we may sacrifice one ready foundation to pay for this card's echo cost, which increases the damage we get to boost with Karasu, and it saves our momentum in case we need it for something like our vertical maneuvering equipment or other cards. And lastly, we have a Titan Emerges, or an Attack Titan Emerges. It's a 2 low 3, 3 diff, very nice 1 low block here, the main reason I put it in. But also, it's a 3 diff, so you can play it later in a string, pretty easy. And as a response, you can sacrifice 1 foundation. After we play this card, both offensively or defensively, we get to build 1 foundation from our discard pile with a difficulty less than the sacrificed card's difficulty. So we can sacrifice, say, a Smiling Death, which we can then remove and flip a rival card, to build an Incubating. Defensively, just by blocking with it. Or, if we had to commit Smiling Death during our turn, we could play Attack Titan attacks, emerges as an attack, and build a ready Incubating for sacrificing a committed Smiling Death. So, it's got a lot of good synergy there, both offensively and defensively for what we want to do, and for snagging back some of our good lower cost foundations from our discard pile. Onto our assets, we have 2 vertical maneuvering equipment, because spending a momentum for a zone change and -3 speed is going to keep us alive forever. Or, spending a momentum for a zone change and +3 speed is going to guarantee that Karasu allows us to blow up our rival's foundations. And it's a cheeky commit for an extra +2 damage if our rivals, say, has no more cards in their hand. And then we have Grenadier Bracers. As an enhance, it says if we have destroyed a foundation this enhance step, we get to get +1 damage, which some of our Blitz cards will allow us to destroy a foundation, such as Attack Titan Emerges, we can use Trace Eyes, we can use Deleterious Bomb. So those are great ways to destroy our foundations for +1, or we can commit this as an enhance to basically double up on Karasu's damage. Well, the damage for the number of foundations we have destroyed. So since we're focused on kind of a dual destruction, we could cut this down to 1 maybe as just a fun one-of, but I figure just a little bit of extra damage here and there could really go a long way. And the main reason I built him off of fire is Barrier Shield. So, this could have been an evil death, but I really like the idea of running cards like Besiege and Besiege and a couple of other fire cards. So, we can remove this to reduce our rival's speed to 0, and the next card we play gets Breaker 2. When we are keeping ourselves at such a low foundation count, speed reductions like this are critical, and when we're keeping our rival at a low foundation count, Breaker can be debilitating. So that is really, really powerful. Which you'll also see on our next action, a Spear and a Shield. This is a fun one-of. It's a +1 mid-block with Breaker 1, and if it's added to our momentum, it goes face up. As a response, we can lose 2 health after blocking with this card to force our rival to commit a foundation. And then, during the end phase, we get to take this card into our momentum. So it's Breaker 1 and Stun 1 on block, which is really, really good. And as a first enhance in our momentum, we can remove this card, so we remove it from our momentum. This attack is +1 damage for each foundation that has left either stage this turn to a maximum of 4. So we could effectively, as a first enhance, get +4 damage on our kill move. Really, really strong when we are ripping cards out of our rival's hand, or playing attacks that they simply cannot block. On to foundations, we have Eaten by the Beard Titan. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite Attack on Titan cards. It is tenacious, so playable while committed. We sacrifice it, this attack gets -3 speed. We can commit it to pass checks, we can sacrifice it for -3 speed. It is a very powerful card. We have Final Words. As a form, we can sacrifice this card to selectively destroy our rival's best foundation at the cost of ending our combat phase. So if we just have this in our stage, we're getting ready to end our turn, we form, sacrifice this, get rid of our rival's best foundation, our turn ends. And since we do run, I believe, 2 copies here of Solo Pro's Ferocity, and that's our only 3 diff, but we could Attack Titan Emerges to sacrifice Solo Pro's Ferocity to build this back in if need be. I've already talked about Smiling Death a little bit. We remove it. After it is destroyed, we get to flip a rival foundation. So we can debilitate our rival's stage even further, not only by forcing them to sacrifice their own foundations, but by taking away the resources that they choose to keep, which is really strong. Solo Pro's Ferocity, we can commit one foundation. Our Fury or Kick attack gets 2 speed. We are running several Fury attacks. Titan, Titan, that's a Fury. Fury, Fury, ranged, 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 charge. So we are running a couple Furies, but it's mainly here for the form, commit, and flip it. If we have destroyed a foundation this turn, we force our rival to destroy a foundation. So if we've sacrificed a foundation, we can force our rival to lose yet another resource. So, and that's a form. So we can form, commit, flip, force them to destroy something, and then form, final words, selectively destroy something. At the end of our turn, after we've played out all our foundations, or attacks or whatever, we can selectively get 2 cards off the board. Well, they get to select the Solo Pro's Ferocity, but we get to select the final words, and make sure that they go into their turn with even fewer resources. This kind of resource denial is very powerful, and yeah, there's another reason everyone hates Mineta. I just hate him because I hate Mineta. We have Incubating. It's more speed hate. Remove a card from your discard pile. This attack gets -1 speed. It's also a low block, which we were very low on. Demon Energy Manipulation, another low block, but after this foundation is destroyed, our next attack gets +2 difficulty. So that's really cool. It helps our attack turns go a little bit longer when we can destroy this with Karasu's ability. Excuse me. And then as an enhance, we can commit it. If we have 6 or fewer foundations in our stage, this attack gets +3 damage. So more damage boosted onto our attacks, especially if our rival is unable to block anymore. And we can destroy it to decrease the difficulty of our next attack, which could turn some of our 3 diffs into 2 diffs, which is insane. We have Frightening Calm. At the cost of destroying one of our foundations, we can give our attack Stun 1. So this triggers Grenadier Bracers. This is more fuel for Karasu. This triggers Solo Pro's Ferocity. This can trigger the static on Demonic Energy Manipulation or Smiling Death. And we just gain Stun 1, further committing our rivals' already limiting and dwindling resources. Unsettling Aura, we can commit this as an enhance. This attack gets -2 speed, but if we have 6 or fewer foundations in our stage, it gets -3 speed instead. So a lot of our speed hate is -3, -3, -3, straight to 0. We want to make sure that we are blocking as many attacks as possible to preserve as much of our 20 health as possible. For funsies, I decided to add Warped Pleasure. This is a unique foundation. It's a nice +2 high block. Once per turn, our turn, any player with 6 or more foundations destroys 1 foundation. So, it is Karasu's ability, but we don't have to deal damage, and this will allow us to get our damage boost online rather quickly. Plus, if our rival's just starting to run away with it, like they have 8 or 9, and they need to pass their next turn, and maybe they've got 4 cards in their hand, so they're going to block everything, we can just trigger this, force them to sacrifice 1 real quick, and just be done with it. And then enhance, if our rival has 10 or less health, our attack gets +1 speed and +1 damage for free. So free stats by pushing our rival even further towards the end. This is a fun one. Number 4 Pro Hero. As a response, after we review this card, if we have 2 or more foundations, we get to build this as a free foundation face down. We can only play one of this abilities a turn, which is fine. And we can also, as an enhance, if it's face up in our stage, add it to our hand for -2 speed. But this is just something to review to get an extra foundation going into our turn so that we can freely sacrifice that foundation and keep our face-up foundations after we've hit with Karasu and just keep going. We have Quick to Act. If our rival has hit us a couple of times and our health is less than half, we get +1 speed to all of our attacks. Ice Gliding for +1 or -2 speed, and then if that attack is blocked, the next attack is +1 or -1 speed, so that kind of cascading stats one way or the other is really easy to run away with. League Interview. It's a 6 check, which is really strong. As a first form, we can discard the top 2 cards of our deck. Our next check to play an attack gets +1. Really strong for cards like Ravages of War and Ruthless Savagery. But also, defensively, after we make a check to play a block, we can flip this card to get +1 to that check, and then commit it. It technically counts on defense as 2 foundations, which is really strong when you have so few foundations to work with. We hate Breaker, so Kirishima's assistance here. As a response, we can flip it. After our rival partially blocks our attack, we seal their block. If we got barrier shielded and they partial block us, it loses Breaker. So we don't have to worry about that. Plus, very nice low block. Making a stand is good momentum hate. We flip it to force our rival to discard a momentum. And as an enhance, our stun attack gets 1 damage for free. So for Deleterious Bomb, or if we've been using Frightening Calm, we can just give our attacks more free damage. But it's mainly in here for the low block and the momentum hate. And if we want to look down here at the stats, it is a 65 card deck. Pretty even block spread, mostly in the mid. But like I said, we could effectively get down to 1 Grenadier Bracers if we want, just for fun. And if we didn't even think we needed it, we could take it out entirely. There was one other. For defense, we could also run cards like Last Second Dodge, which flips for -2 speed and gets rid of throw, which is really strong, especially since we're such a low health character. We hate throw cards, so being able to reduce throw is good. There's also Muscle Rush. If this attack is completely blocked as an enhance, it still deals 1 damage. So we could effectively, if it's fully blocked, force our rival to take 1 damage, and we get to destroy a foundation off of Karasu. So this is another card that we could put in if we wanted to, which could really help get things going for Karasu. But that is going to be my deck profile and my way of bullying the bullies, as it were. A lot of these decks that want to build up to 9 foundations to transform their character, Karasu can just say, well, if you can't perfect block me every turn, you're not going to be able to transform, period. So it's really cool. I really like this type of foundation denial. I know Mineta 2 can do it as well, but I think the 7-hand size for Karasu allowing you to build your own stage really strong, because a lot of these characters are 6-handers, except for Ymir and Annie, I believe, is a 7-hander. But the rest of them are 6. So if we can outbuild and then start shotgunning down all of their foundations and then rebuild so that we maintain the foundation advantage, we could effectively hold their head down until the bubbles stop. So this is something personally I am working on, because I think it has a lot of very critical use, especially going into the Attack on Titan meta in Atlanta. I will not be going to Atlanta, but I do believe that strategies like this could hold a key to cracking some of these strong characters like Bertolt or Reiner. So, with that said, what did you think of the deck? What do you think of this play style? Do you think it has the legs needed to defeat some of these menacing problems? Granted, it does nothing really against Mikasa. Mikasa will still likely turn to you as a 7-hander, unless you're lucky enough to get like Ravages of War and Barrier Shield and just break her out everything. So, yeah, maybe side into someone who's better against Mikasa for this. Someone who's also a fire deck with a death. Let's see, what other death fire characters do we have? Match. We have Eren Yeager, 634. Could be okay. Mirko is a 630. And she can destroy a foundation to ready herself. Wolfwood, I don't see be going good against Mikasa. Mirko 1 could be good against Mikasa, because you could flip a card in your card pool, choose a player, their next check gets -2 or +2. That could be helpful. Yeah. So, you could side into just a bigger, beefier, fire death character, if you're going against Mikasa and hope that you don't get turn 2'd. But this is more against the transforming Titan characters, if you think you're going to see more Reiners or Bertolts, or... honestly, Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie, probably. Well, I don't even think you'll see Annie, because you have Bertolt. I don't think you'll see Eren, Reiner, Ymir. Ymir I could see being rough, especially since she gets this free build on a form. I see Ymir being the only one that could really stand up against this type of debuild strategy. Maybe Annie too, if she can get the momentum to just spend and build. That could work. But I don't know. I've rambled on enough. If you enjoy the deck, please leave a like on the video and consider subscribing if you haven't. And if you want to support the channel even more and get a bunch of extra content, you can feel free to support me on Patreon. I'll leave the links below, and I'll try to remember to link the deck. I have not been linking the deck lists to the videos because I'm still very much an amateur. But I will try to remember to do that, and I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care.